Horror history.
The young girl captured in this haunting 1970 photograph is Genie Wiley from California, often referred to as the feral child. At the age of 13, she could barely walk. Throughout her life, Genie endured severe abuse from her father. He subjected her to a makeshift straitjacket, keeping her tied to a children's toilet in a locked room all day. If she made any noise or exhibited behavior he disapproved of, he would growl and bare his teeth at her like a dog. Due to these brutal conditions, Genie never acquired the ability to walk or speak. This unsettling photo was taken in a hospital shortly after her rescue, marking the beginning of her life within a series of abusive institutions. Regrettably, Genie's current whereabouts remain unknown, underscoring the tragic and mysterious aspects of her life. Anatoly Moskvin, a former Russian journalist and college professor, self-styled as a necropolist, possessed extensive knowledge of cemeteries. Despite his seemingly innocent hobby of collecting dolls, he harbored a dark obsession. Moskvin engaged in the disturbing practice of exhuming corpses and transforming them into dolls. After crafting these human dolls, he housed them in his residence, considering them his companions and even expressing romantic feelings towards them. Moskvin wrote about kissing one of his dolls, created from the body of an 11-year-old girl. In 2011, police apprehended Moskvin after growing suspicions linked him to numerous desecrated graves in Nizhny Novgorod. A search of his home revealed 26 life-sized dolls, which were, in fact, mummified corpses. This shocking discovery exposed the extent of Moskvin's macabre activities, leading to legal consequences for his actions. In 1901, French authorities received an anonymous tip suggesting that a woman was being held captive at an aristocrat's residence in Poitiers. Responding to the information, officers conducted a search of the house. Behind the locked door of a pitch-black attic, they discovered a skeletal middle-aged woman lying on a straw mattress surrounded by her own excrement, with insects and decaying food scattered across the floor. The stench inside the room was so overpowering that officers found it challenging to proceed with their investigation. Despite the conditions, they identified the emaciated woman, weighing only 55 pounds, who had survived 25 years trapped in the same room. Her name was Blanche Monnier, and shockingly, her captor turned out to be her own mother. In Victorian England, life expectancies were notably low, primarily attributed to the widespread prevalence of diseases and the absence of adequate medical treatments. Furthermore, photography during this era was a costly and uncommon practice, limiting the number of individuals who could afford to have their portraits taken. Tragically, when young children succumbed to illness or other causes, their grieving parents would sometimes dress them in their best attire for a posthumous portrait. This practice aimed to capture a lasting and eerily lifelike image of the children who had already passed away, serving as a poignant memento of their brief lives. These photographs, while haunting, reflected the harsh realities of life and death during Victorian times. This unsettling historical photograph, titled The Pioneer's Defense, was taken in 1937 by Russian photographer Viktor Buller. Despite the eerie appearance, the individuals in the image were members of the Young Pioneers, a Soviet youth group comparable to the Boy Scouts. The photograph captures them wearing gas masks as part of a military preparation drill in the Leningrad area. This moment reflects the uncertainty and anxiety prevalent in the years just before World War II, with the looming specter of potential conflict. The image also serves as a poignant reminder of the challenging times in the Soviet Union under the rule of dictator Joseph Stalin, marked by waves of death and terror. This poignant photo from 1948 captures the devastating impact of poverty on a family. At the time, Mr. and Mrs. Ray Shalafu faced eviction from their Chicago apartment and were in desperate need of money. In a heart-wrenching decision, the unemployed coal truck driver and his wife chose to sell their children. While some members of the Shalafu family have suggested that the mother was paid to stage the image, the sad reality is that the children were indeed sold to different homes within 2 years. Tragically, the fate of the children, Lana, 6, top left, Ray, 5, top right, Milton, 4, bottom left, and Sue Ellen, 2, bottom right, included experiencing severe abuse at the hands of their new families. The image stands as a powerful reminder of the dire consequences that poverty can have on families and the vulnerable position of children in such circumstances. Anneliese Michel, a devout Catholic teenager in Germany during the late 1960s, initially led a normal life with her parents. However, her life took a dark turn when she started experiencing blackouts at school and exhibiting increasingly bizarre behaviors. These included convulsions, hallucinations, consuming spiders, and even drinking her own urine. Convinced that she was possessed by the devil, Anneliese and her parents reached the same conclusion. In a desperate attempt to save her, they subjected her to 67 exorcisms. Unfortunately, none of these exorcisms improved her condition, and she died at the age of 23 in 1976, weighing a mere 68 pounds due to malnutrition. Anneliese Michel's disturbing story served as the inspiration for the 2005 horror film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. It remains a tragic and haunting account of the intersection of mental health issues, religious beliefs, and the consequences of untreated medical conditions. In St. Petersburg, Florida, on the morning of July 2, 1951, something unusual happened to Mary Reeser. When her landlady went to deliver a telegram, she noticed that the door of Mary's apartment felt warm. Upon opening it, she discovered that Mary had turned into a pile of ashes on her burned chair. Only a part of her left leg and her skull remained, shrunken far beyond normal. Local authorities couldn't figure out what caused the fire, and the rest of the apartment had minimal fire damage. When the case reached the FBI, they concluded that Mary had burned like a candle wick, with her body fat fueling the fire. However, they, too, were puzzled about how the fire started. Even today, many believe it was a case of spontaneous human combustion. In the early 1960s, Michael Rockefeller, the son of New York governor and future U.S. Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, went missing in Papua New Guinea. This photo, taken during his initial visit in May 1960, shows Rockefeller smiling despite the unfortunate turn of events. It is believed that he was killed and eaten by the Asmat people, a cannibal group known for beheading their enemies and consuming their flesh. Robert Ben Rhodes, known as the truck stop killer, potentially committed over 50 murders while traversing the United States in commercial trucks during the 1970s and 80s. One of his most horrifying acts was the presumed final murder, involving 14-year-old Regina Kay Walters in an Illinois barn in early 1990. Prior to the killing, Rhodes captured a series of photos depicting Walters cowering in fear as he approached to commit the crime. Authorities discovered this photo and a similar collection during the investigation after Rhodes was eventually apprehended several months later.